Hey everybody, Brian Blackmore with Church Production Magazine here, and I want to ask you one very important question. Where does rigging safety rank in your production planning for your holiday events? As we enter the Christmas season and the Easter season shortly thereafter, churches are planning how to do those services and their pageants. If they're going to be doing large-scale set design and rigging, it's going to be around Christmas and Easter. So it's a timely topic. So joining us today is Eric Rouse, the Director of Rigging and Training with Entertainment Project Services based in Las Vegas. Eric, say hi to everybody today.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
And also, Dennis Parker is the Production Warehouse Manager at Church of the Highlands based in Birmingham, Alabama. Say hi to everybody, Dennis.
Hey, Brian, it's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to you both. So, Dennis, tell us a little bit about the types of situations that you run into at Church of the Highlands and why you felt the need to call on Eric and a company like Entertainment Project Services.
The main part was safety training. Like we've got coworkers, or I've had interactions with coworkers who have limited experience in training working safely at height and also working safely on the ground with people working above them. For example, my first week on staff, I had a coworker who was replacing a light fixture out of a single man genie lift. And when he was at height replacing the fixture, he dropped it and it landed on the stage next to me. There was also another incident a short time later when a supervisor was up in the still in our main auditorium and dropped a tape measure. It fell all the way to the ground. And so I just felt like with situations like that happening often, that we needed some extra training.
Yeah, those things will shake you up.
Absolutely.
So, Eric, you mentioned something before we started the recording about how churches like Church of the Highlands tend to take staging and rigging seriously, that it's highly technical and requires a certain level of expertise. Give us some examples and then tell us, why do some churches take rigging seriously and others don't?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think one of the things that sets Church of the Highlands apart, and then when you're dealing with churches of that size and of the scope that they have, it's essentially, for lack of a better term, it's a rock and roll production, in a lot of ways, and that's the staging quality and the value that they're trying to get out of it. And when you have that kind of equipment, I think it's almost obvious, that you need to have that kind of training, right? Because you have equipment that costs a lot of money, that weighs a lot, that's getting put up over people's heads. And I think they have some people on the staff that have been doing this for a while and understand the hazards that can come with that and understand how important it is to have that background and have that knowledge. Now, we see this a lot on the purely entertainment side, in theaters and arenas across the country, where sometimes in some places they don't place the same value on that knowledge that they do in others. And really it just comes to not having a clear understanding of what some of the dangers are and what some of those hazards are. And I think that's really part of the challenge, is sometimes places just don't know what they don't know. And it's no fault of their own. It's just the way that it's been. So I think having some places, some churches, do a little bit more research on what it is that they're using and starting to understand the hazards and understand what those safety issues might be, would be a big step in trying to fill that gap.
So, Eric, along that lines of thinking, a lot of churches will hire a professional integrator to design their main systems or their systems in their main rooms, and then those integrators go away and churches try to do everything from that point on by themselves. What are your thoughts on those situations? Untrained volunteers trying to do their own maintenance and maybe installing systems in secondary rooms, youth rooms, chapels, things like that. What are your thoughts on those situations, and how can a church get themselves in trouble if they continue to do that?
Yeah, first of all, I think the first thing to say is I absolutely respect them for wanting to do that stuff, taking the responsibility and doing it on their own. And I think that's great. And, it just shows a willingness to get the job done. And I think that's amazing. Where it kind of goes back to a little bit is, again, going back to the you don't know what you don't know kind of thing that I said. And if you have an integrator that comes in, maybe you watch them for a little bit in the main room, in the main sanctuary, and you kind of keep an eye on them, see what they're doing, and you watch and you learn a few things, and then you try to implement what you've learned just by watching them and taking it to the other spaces. But what you don't have is the background that they had, right? You don't really have the understanding of why they're doing it the way they're doing. You're just kind of emulating, like children do. They emulate the adults, right? But they don't understand why they're walking funny or why they're doing what they're doing. So it's that same kind of thing. So what is missing then is that bit of gap between, I understand I'm taking this thing and I'm putting it here, but why am I using it in this configuration, and why does this part go here and this part goes here? And I think that's where sometimes the issues may lie. And I don't know if Dennis would agree with that, but I think that's probably the challenge a lot of times, is just folks missing that gap. So they may use something in just the wrong way because it looks the same, but it's just not. What do you think, Dennis?
Yeah, I agree with that. I believe people start off with the best intentions and they want to do a good job. But if they don't know something and they think that they're doing it the right way, it could have bad consequences if it's like not done properly.
Yeah, like the first time I tried to drive a truck with 3 on the tree instead of a regular stick shift, I knew I had to change gears. I just couldn't figure out how, and I couldn't really get that truck going anywhere. So it's just that gap. It's just you're missing part of it.
So Dennis, you mentioned when we were talking before we started recording, that one of the things that led you to call Eric and Entertainment Project Services was you were trying to figure out how to do rigging math. So tell us about that situation and what led you to reach out to Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. I needed to get more exposure on how to calculate load points using rigging math. So I was going to LDI that year at Las Vegas, so I registered for a rigging class while I was there. Eric was the instructor of that class. I really enjoyed his style of teaching. I was able to comprehend and retain how he taught rigging math. And it was also important to me, his detailed focus on safety that I felt that we needed at Highlands. So after we got back to Birmingham, I contacted him soon afterwards and asked if he'd be willing to come to Birmingham and do a class for our production department. And ever since, we've had Eric back for 2 years straight doing continual educational training.
So, but Dennis, could you tell us, like, what were you trying to calculate the loads on? What can you tell us the situation you were trying to figure out?
Yeah, absolutely. We do a couple of stage swaps at different times a year where we change how our main sanctuary auditorium looks like. So it was just, we were changing the configuration on LED walls, and we're just, stuff like that's very important. Make sure you're not overloading each motor point. And so we just wanted to make sure that we were in compliance with what we were trying to do.
So specifically, when you went to the class at LDI and then you met Eric, what did you ask him, to come and help you out with?
Yeah, specifically, just like we had different varying levels of experience with stage production and rigging. And like the first time we brought him out was just to do like a basic rigging class, how to calculate bridles, how to, do basic rigging math, do a little bit of fall protection, basically just working safe in the environment that we're in.
Eric, tell us a little bit more about, what you found when you arrived and did the training with Church of the Highlands.
Yeah, sure. First thing I'll say is it was fun, and that's something that I try to instill in the classes, and the group at Church of the Highlands made it real easy to have fun. They were very welcoming, and that was great because, sometimes when you bring someone like myself into your space, sometimes you might, I don't know if intimidated is the right word, but get a little worried. What are they going to see? What are they going to find? And so people sometimes are a little closed, but folks at Church of the Highlands and Dennis, they were more than open about bringing me in, and just it was a lot of fun. So when before the class, we actually had extensive conversations on the type of stuff they wanted. And a lot of the stuff that I ask is, what type of equipment do you have? What type of chain motors do you have? What kind of rigging do you do? Because every venue and every church is a little bit different. So not everyone has the same type of rigging in their church. So it's a matter of getting a good idea of what type of equipment they have, what they're really trying to get out of it, and then coming in with that mindset. And then once you get there and you see the reality of what you're in, you then have to, go off the cuff a little bit and just adapt the class to the space that you're in. And that's what we did. My intent the first day was to just come in and start like I'd done every time. But I think we actually started talking more about their in-house gear right from the beginning, because they just have so much equipment, and they, they really are stretched really wide in terms of all the stuff that they're using. So we really did start getting in fairly quickly into the truss that they use, the types of chain motors they use, how they're doing their rigging. We started getting into a little bit on maintenance and things like that. So the nature of their space, I'll just call the sanctuary that space for a second, really kind of dictated how the class started and kind of how it proceeded from there. I don't know if you felt it went that way, Dennis, or not, but that's how it went to me.
It was very exciting, just not from me, but from other people in the class, how quickly it took off and we got into like a hands-on scenario with our gear.
Yeah, and the other thing that was great is that people really jumped in, because there were some people that, like Dennis had said, had been doing it for a while, and some that were very new, and the ones that were very new were really eager to learn and really eager to jump in and get their hands on stuff. So that was really, really encouraging and really helped make it a lot of fun. The more hands-on you can do with stuff, the better off you are.
Dennis, tell us a little bit about what kind of changes and modifications, what came about as a result of this training?
The main things that we have changed since we've, gone through the training is we've created a service program for our chain motors. We have each hoist serviced and certified and load tested once a year. And I mean, before we really weren't having that done on a consistent basis, where we weren't tracking the gear at each campus on a service schedule. So now we're compliant with that. Another small thing, but important, was the type of span sets we were using to hold our truss. We were using synthetic nylon span sets, and Eric brought to our attention that there's better options with steel span sets. And in case something happens in a building, they're going to hold up a lot more during distress than the other ones. Another issue was we used Tyler truss, and that we were hanging certain scenarios. We were hanging from the wrong cord, and it devalued how much weight the truss could hold. So it was minor things from the outside looking in, but internally we thought they were very big things.
And I think one of the things that we've talked about before, Dennis, also was one of the effects was changing a little bit how you guys looked at fall protection and that kind of safety stuff, right?
Absolutely. Like, we've gone and made our main auditorium, where we do a lot of our, arena style rigging. We've made it a lot safer for the technicians that are in the ceiling doing the work.
Well, Brian, I want to say, first of all, thank you for doing this. And Dennis, thanks for being a part of this. And I'd like to mention, if there are any churches or any folks out there that are listening to this that think that some of this might apply to what they're doing, we'd love to talk to them about it. Besides the training that we do, which I, again, love doing, we also do inspections and maintenance for technical equipment and things like that. So we would love for folks to reach out to us about any of those issues. We'd love to help if we can.
Well, thank you, Eric. Folks, we've been discussing rigging safety and the importance of getting a consultant involved, especially in light of the upcoming Christmas and Easter seasons. So our guests today have been Eric Rouse. He's the Director of Rigging and Training with EPS, Entertainment Project Services, based in Las Vegas. EPS focuses on staging and rigging project management, rigging and inspections, rigger training, including church techs, as well as mechanical design. And we've also been talking with Dennis Parker. He's one of the production managers at Church of the Highlands in Birmingham, Alabama. My name is Brian Blackmore with Church Production Magazine. Thank you so much for watching today.